Okay, for you guys to go live, you got to hit that got it button. So once everybody do that, we're ready.
All right. Good night. Welcome to Fatherhood Talks. We hopefully everyone had a good Christmas, a good holiday thus far. We are now, many of us who celebrate the harvest, we are now in Kwanzaa. Today, I will have to say Habari Gani. In response is Kuja Chakalia to those people who celebrate Kwanzaa during this time. And we're getting ready for our new year, to begin the new, to start the new. Here at Fatherhood Talks, we thought it would be a good evaluation to really, reevaluate our year. And one of those ways to do that is using almost that principle for Kwanzaa, Kuja Chakalia, self-determination. And so the nice topic is self-determination, a father's faith, and where a father looks for their faith in being a father. And that's a big factor. And we're going to have that conversation to hear from. Tonight we have a variety of fathers like we got in the room tonight. So we're definitely going to try to hear from at least each of them. I know some of them don't plan to be here long, but we definitely want to be able to get some of these unique perspectives as fathers tonight here at Fatherhood Talks. Again, everyone knows I'm Ron Chris Rodman Williams. I'm just a servant to fathers, so that we have this, and being a servant to fathers means that I get served from those fathers, from the service I give to them. And if you know what that means, you understand it. It makes good sense to you. This work is not hard, but it's not easy. So I just welcome all the fathers that are here tonight and ask you to introduce yourself. And I hope the fathers, our senior fathers who know the routine, will guide our visiting fathers tonight through the process. We just say who you are and number of children. And if you have anything special to share or say, it's fine. We'll take that too before we get into our discussion. So welcome to Fatherhood Talks.
Okay, I guess I'll kick it off. Larry Jordan, father of two, grandfather of one. Want to say good evening, gentlemen. Hope you had a great holiday. It's not over yet. We're continuing to do what we do, and looking for a prosperous 2023.
Good afternoon. Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I am a father to a tribe of 7 young adults, 4 young men, 3 young women, and 1 granddaughter. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good evening, fellas. Name J-Rock Menard. Father of 2 young adults. Oldest is female, 25 and 19. And it's a pleasure to be here.
Good evening. My name is Ed Harris. Children 5, 14 grandchildren, 21 great-grandchildren. It is my pleasure to be here.
Good evening. My name is Herman Anderson. I can kind of more relate to Mr. Williams' statement about being more of a servant to fathers, big brother, and sometimes surrogate. Now, I may not have, any children of my own, but I definitely take it upon myself to be that big brother or that, substitute for those who are coming up, and be a blessing and help those who are, raising, their children and trying to move forward. So thank God for the role that I have right now. And, that's where I am.
Good afternoon. My name is Travis Sands. I am a father biologically two, but I'm a father to a whole nation of I stopped counting for over 10 years. I have continued to spread that gap into fatherless homes.
Vic Adams, father of three, my grandson.
Jeff Murray, a father of three, two boys and two young men and one young lady.
Justin Gibbs, father of five, soon to be six. I have one girl, one boy, one boy, four girls, and I'm about to have another boy.
All right now.
What? Is that everybody?
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Lonnie Lawrence, and it's a pleasure being able to stop in tonight. I have two adult sons. When I say adult, real adult. And I'm father to many other little ones, boys and girls, in several of the programs that I deal with. It's a pleasure.
And the father of me as well, Lonnie. You forgot me.
Hey Jeff, I didn't realize you were on, Jeff. How you doing? Yeah, I'm Jeff's father too.
Okay. And with that being, everybody introducing themselves. So the guys tonight, we're going to be talking about self-determination. But before, one of the things before we really get into that conversation, self-determination, I really like to really go around the room and ask fathers, in terms of what they have been faithful for this year and what they plan to be faithful for in the next year. It could be anything, I think that it's important as we become on the end of a year and start a new year. What has been faithful for us? What things do we plan to plan for to be faithful into the next year? And we just open up the floor for that.
Well, I can tell you one thing I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for health, considering the couple of years that we've been through. Health is wealth, as far as I'm concerned. And what I am seeking in 2023 is to just be more intentional about everything that I do, and everywhere I go and every person that I meet. I am going to try to cut out distractions in my life, and anything that would be negative. I'm trying to stay away from anything negative for 2023.
Thank you,
I
Lauren.
mean, you don't say it at all.
Ron, when you said faithful too, that's a good question. I'm going to share something publicly that I've never. It's a prayer. Since we're talking about faithful or faith, I plan, or I'm gonna continue to try, right, to be faithful to living more in God's favor and less in His forgiveness. And that's what I'm gonna try to be faithful, continue to be faithful, living more in His favor and less in His forgiveness. Something that Herman said that struck me as a chord. Herman said that he was a substitute father, or whatever the case may be. I don't think anything of sustenance can ever be a substitute, Herman. And so you're no substitute to anybody. If you bring sustenance, then you're a sustenance father or a surrogate father, but never a substitute father. So I just had to go ahead and just try to elevate you on that part and appreciate everything you contribute to humanity.
Lana, staying with sometimes I forget this, so we get so caught up in these conversations that we're having, that a large part of this whole organization of this Fatherhood Talk is to empower the fathers. To remind, we have enough places in our world to beat fathers down and penalize them and put them in these places, that it reminds me, and I'm so glad that you said that, Lionel, that we put ourselves sometimes down and say we're less than and less than, and we need other fathers to remind us, to empower us that we are, as you said, substance, not a substitute, substance to you never know who, because you never know who's watching. That's how kids are. You never know when they're watching, and what you do is so powerful. Thank you in that last episode of the year for keeping us reminded, grounded in that the number one thing that we're supposed to be doing here is empowering the fathers. So thank you, Lana, for doing that. Okay, let me get off this. I get so excited when I see certain things. I just want us to know, and I want the world to know it when they're watching us, that this is what we're here for. Not, we might talk a lot and do a lot of things, but we're really here to empower fathers, and that they can hear it. You're in the sound of my voice. Know that this is a place where we want to empower you to be the best father you can be. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Next person for faith for the year, faith in the future.
I thank God for helping me to be faithful in my calling, whether it's at work or with the family. Teaching me at times when to have patience, and just kind of be patient. And what I would like to is be able to continue that growth in that area, in terms of what I do, as far as being there, and the role that I play in individuals' lives, whether it's, what I'm doing at work or with family, my cousin, whatever. It takes a team to kind of hold up people sometimes. I remember looking at a boxing match earlier this year and not realizing how it's much more of a team effort than anybody would think. From the guys in the corner, giving that boxing them coaching points and keeping them focused during the fight, to even the cut man, which in a particular thing that I was looking at was vital, because that particular boxing was winning, and he got a bad cut. And if the cut man didn't keep it under control, the ref could have pulled that fight and said, well, you can't stop that bleeding. We got to stop the fight. So, it takes a team effort to keep each and every one of us hanging in there and doing what we have to do, to keep guys going and to keep them, in the fight and being those fathers and being able to keep their life on track. So just want God to continue to help me in that area and bless me to continue to do it. Help me, give me wisdom, because there are times when you have to kind of draw back a little bit or have a little wisdom and say, okay, let me step back and let him kind of figure out things for himself. And, that's the thing that I wish for continuing wisdom and guidance in those areas.
Thank you, my brother. Brother
What I had to work on in reference to my faith this year, my son said to me, Dad, you need to master your patience. And I thought that was very profound, because I'm so quick with my thoughts, my actions, and that I need to slow down about everything because I want it right now. I'm tired of talking. I want action. Act I on. And I had to master that. And if anything, my worst enemy is me. I beat myself up. So my faith was to have the discipline and faith to slow down and let go and let God. I can't have everything I want when I want it as soon as I want it. So moving forward in faith by mastering patience is what I had to work on. And that's what I'm working towards for 2023. And that's so important when we talk about even the subject of tonight about self-determination. We're so quick as brothers to beat ourselves up. We need to take a look at the inside job of who we are as self. So we have to self-recognize inside of ourselves of who we are and what we're doing to ourselves, and listen to the messages and that are being spoken to us. So tonight is so valuable and so poignant about self-determination. So I'm self-aware of my faith moving forward and determined to accomplish that, because iron sharpens iron. And I'll rest it right there.
The old man.
Hey,
Lonnie, you know, but
Ed,
Lonnie that turned this last show, hey boy. Lonnie, you know when called the ringers in the night, brother. I see you. I see you done called the ringers in the night.
Ed, I just want to say your son must have talked to my son, because that's exactly what we talked about. And I totally agree with you in terms of that, in terms of, having faith that he will make a way. He will make it happen. I don't need to make it happen. The Almighty will make it happen. I just got to put the idea in his head. Just let him know this is what I'm thinking. And one of the things that we have to do is stop letting others determine who we are. We have to stop that. And it happens every day, and we allow it to happen. And it doesn't necessarily mean people who don't look like us, because sometimes some of us try to determine who we are and they don't know who they are.
Oh, true. And that's key. And see, just having this conversation speaks to a new awareness and an education of, wait a minute, I learned something new. So you master the patience of what is surrounding you. Everybody can't sit in my front row. And everything that comes to you for you ain't good for you.
Ain't good for you.
But
There you go.
when it does come that your best friend, like you, Brother Lonnie, if it's been confirmed that if your son said what he said to you and my son said it to me, we just confirmed that it was meant to be. And so therefore it is meant to be. We just learned something, that iron sharpens iron, what goes around to make it strengthen, that the other brothers that are listening that says, hold up, wait a minute. Now we done paved a way and a path that says, okay, when it comes before them, they say, wait a minute, I done heard that because somebody done went down that path already.
That's right. I mean, there's no path that hasn't been walked. So we need to take advantage of it, brothers. I'm gonna have to hop off.
Okay.
But Alano, thank you for the invite, and I hope to be back soon.
We'll talk later, brother.
Okay.
Thank you, Brother Lawrence, and we look forward to seeing you again on Fatherhood Talk.
All right, I look forward to it.
Yes, yeah. But and I just wanna again, as we heard these two elders kind of speak, how this is what we don't get enough of. We don't get an opportunity. That Brother Harris said that his son told him this. Brother Lawrence said that his son told him this. And how often do we communicate that, as Brother Harris said so eloquently, if both of them are saying it, it makes it true for what we need to be doing. But we don't really have that kind of communication with each other. And when we are able to have this communication that way, now all of us who are watching this communication between these two elders have to start thinking about, do we need to be doing that same thing as well? It's great. It's a great trickle down effect of listening to fathers talk and then being able to see how it relates to you. Let me get back to some more fathers talking about their faith and faithfulness for the year.
One quick thing before you return to that, I just want to say I took notice to the fact that their kids were able to come to them and tell them that without feeling as if it was going to be backlash. And sometimes, and that's one thing that I've always worked on for me, and it leads into my faithfulness, is creating that line of communication with my son and my daughter open, so that they can feel that they can tell me stuff without there ever being a backlash. So it's always going to be said out of love and not out of disrespect and not out of fear. And I think
my apology for cutting you off.
No, go ahead.
You said something very important. Learn to listen to learn has been the open dialogue line of communication that I have between my children. We communicate with each other. If my children that learn from me, they should have no fear to be able to talk and share with me about anything. And from the beginning, there should be the fact that if they listen to me, because if you raise up a child as they should go, then they should be able to come to me without any fear, reservation, or hesitation. And so now at a stage of life, as now he's growing, he's mature, he said to me something so profound that said, I had to listen to what he said because he listened to what I said. So come full circle, it was powerful to me to actually, that came from my boy's mouth. Listen to, go ahead, son. You done growed up. You done became, look, listen. That's the power of communication. That's the power of a relationship that you have. And one key thing for me, you can't tell your children anything. You share with them the power of suggestion and communication, because ain't nobody want to be told anything. You teach them. You share with them. You educate them. You learn through education, teaching, and that's how you communicate with them. Key of life is education through communication and sharing.
Yeah. Then I want to add one more to that experience.
Well, okay. With that, you begin with education that turns into knowledge that then now becomes wisdom. Talk to me. I don't mean to dominate this conversation, but I started off with the fact that before I could speak, I had to listen. Before you could utter your first word, you had to hear the word into existence. He spoke the word. So you gained through experience, through education, that became knowledge that now becomes wisdom. So when you put it all together, that's why we're here talking to share to one another.
I love it.
For clarity reasons, and when for those who didn't understand, when I said my faith is to live more in God's favor and less in His forgiveness, it's a universal perspective, right? That simply means that everything that I'm not, right? Everything that stops progress, be it communication, be it mobilization, be it just simply moving forward. That's everything I need forgiveness for. And I've lived in forgiveness for a long time. And I am grateful for God's forgiveness. Never get that misunderstood. But it comes a time, particularly being an adult and a full grown adult, that you have to say that is it possible for me to live more in God's favor and less in His forgiveness? Which means that I can't use His forgiveness as my excuse or my experience for always messing up, right? Be it not being patient, be it a bad communicator, be it whatever flaws I may have, which in the forgiveness cover, I am okay with that. I'm glad and I'm grateful for it. But if I can live more in his favor, which means that I can do those things that offend people less. I can do those things that cause my whole existence, be it my family, my inheritance, to progress less and get them to progress more, then I can move from more into the forgiveness and less into the favor. And so when I prayed that prayer, it's more of a combo for all of the shortcomings as opposed to just a particular one or two of them. And so that's what I meant by living more in his favor, less in forgiveness. And I just wanted to convey that. Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Any
Walking in
other?
growth. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I hear you. No, I hear you. You know, taking that next step. You know, going you know, now we're moving past, you know, that point and then growing and being more victorious. Yeah, I definitely feel that. I definitely feel that. That was a good testimony.
All right. Anybody else? Anything that they would like to say about their faith for this past year or the upcoming year that they would like to have faith, be faithful, more faithful in? Or before we move on to the,
I would like to say something.
go ahead.
Yeah. So typically my faith and everything that I've built my life as being the image of my father. Being the image of being the image, because let me explain this. Everybody read the Bible and everybody go through this whole situation of the religions that they're in. And one thing that I've lived by was, first off, let me put disclaimer. I don't know who my father is. So let's put that out there. And so I had the image of being able to have Lionel to be a part of my life, different other male role models to actually be a part of my journey of developing, right? And most of you all, I mean, the people that know me know that I have an organization that really deals with building wholeness, and the thing is that me being a male role model, I had to also evaluate what type of man I wanted to be. And with that being said, I was raised in church. And I've learned that we're serving God. So why wouldn't I want him to be my father? Why would I want to? I basically use him as my image, that I walk, I talk, I breathe, I do as my father do. And by me living in that type of mindset and that type of way, it allows me to be it just allows me to walk a different path. It allows me to pay attention to what I do and how I do, and I seek my father's guidance every day, all day, so that young people behind me, young people that I meet with, I mean, every day. I got 3 or 4 or 5 different schools that I deal with, and literally just having a male role model, a male figure into the school systems is freaking amazing. And knowing that your character means so much, that how you walk, your values and stuff like that. So I continue to have my faith to be the image of my father. That makes sense. I don't know if I put that all together. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a show about that as well. So okay. Again, we talk, listen, and I think what you said, Travis, what happens is it sounds so deep, but what it really is very simple if you listen. We model what we say. I model who I am behind my father, but my father models from his father, but we all 3 of us model from our father. And regardless who we consider that be that father, I tell people, but that's where that whole father image comes from, and we can't go wrong you usually can't go wrong if you follow your father. You know,
That's it.
And then we become,
I love that you bring that to the floor. But again, I'll tell you, we had that show. Well, I don't know to remember the name of it, but Lana brought that show. I follow my father. I think it was Follow My Father. I follow my father's father, something like that. You go back and look. People can go back and look, check that show out. Definitely that, you know, and that was a deep conversation. That was a preview. Travis gave you a preview of how deep that show was that night. so there you go right there. All right, thank you, Travis. Anybody else? Before we move on, we still faithful this year or into next year? Okay, so let's move on. Let's move to the conversation about self-determination. And I think that Brother Harris said a lot about this idea of developing and what it looks like to begin to start this self-determination. And you know what? And I want to ask, especially some of our fathers who have struggled somewhat through this year, what has it been to allow you to be self-determined? You know, and you know, better than that, I'll start that conversation for myself. I was speaking to, and many of you guys know, if you watch the show, we have a resident attorney, Johnny Gasper. He's here often. Myself personally, I have been trying to handle some things legally about being a father. And I trust, you know, I felt like I trusted into this attorney. And so someone referred to me who was a friend and a brother. And I would say, oh, I'll go with this person. And here it goes, a guy who's supposed to know and help the other people. Then ran around the horse on the same thing. I think I told enough of guys about, you know, what to look for in an attorney, how to, you know, the passion and what you need. And, you know, at many points, it became almost like, because of my self-determination to really want to get this thing taken care of, I became like almost like I think a nuisance to the attorney, you know, at this point. You know, and I say to myself, you know, but I know why I'm doing this, because I want to have my time. I want to go back to being the father I was when my child was young. And I had that full accessibility to them, you know, that, you know, and the freedom to kind of like just do it without all of these strings and you know, things. And a lot of that has to do with being able to work on the self-determination for me to manage the relationship with my child's mother better. But a lot of that management needs some type of boundaries. And obviously we as two well-educated individuals can't come to those boundaries. So we'll have to go to some mediator, some modify, somebody who's going to handle that boundaries for us. Because if not, we're both going to lose. And who's going to lose more to me than anybody is our child. You know, I can pretend like, oh, it doesn't matter. And I can say, well, forget this, forget her, forget that, I just do whatever. But the self-determination of saying that, hey, sometimes you got to keep doing what you don't want to do. You got to keep, you might, sometimes you got to even go back and rewrite the book. You got to take the loss. So the $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, to take that loss, go gather another $5,000 or $6,000 so you can pay the next attorney, to ensure that the passion that you have for what you want to happen with your child can happen. We always need an advocate, but in certain systems, you need the right advocate. And many of our, as we know, brothers who are going in and out of the court, the advocate has to be someone who has the passion for what you're talking about. So I had a conversation with Johnny over the holiday about that. And it really got me back to remembering my self-determination to ensure that I'm going to have the ideal situation for myself and for my child to get as much as they can get from me. And it's important that she gets as much as she can get from me, because life is short. We pretend like it's not short, but tomorrow we can't talk about what we want to happen 6 years from now, because tomorrow could be our last day. I do it two weeks from now. 2 weeks might not come. So have to be resilient, and you have to be, really self-determined to say, this is what how I want things to be, and this is how I'm going to make it do. And I'm not going to stop till I get exactly what I want and get it for the right.
Ron, you just made me confront that word determination and self-determination. And when I'm realizing when you say self-determination, I don't think determination was actually created to be self-driven, and here's why. Because when you hear determination, at the end of that word, it's nation, right? And so it means it's more of a cause than it is a character. And I think when we take the word and we misuse it or misappropriate it, then we get the results we get. And so if determination was really created for a cause as opposed to being limited to a character, then it wouldn't have been called self-determination. It would have been called a self-island. And it's not a self-island. It's not called a determined island. It's called determination because it's created to build something bigger than ourselves. And so I think that's the problem with it, because I don't think we really either create the narrative, and which is back to Ed's point, or recreate the narrative to really own it. And I think when it comes to men, and particularly this is men globally, we're so big on owning everything outside of ourselves, we'll die and leave here never owning anything on the inside of ourselves, if that makes any sense.
I want to piggyback off of the whole thing of determination, right? I teach this thing inside the schools. Tell anybody to ask your kids. Can y'all hear me? Y'all hear me, right?
Yeah, you loud and clear.
Okay. So I've asked, and I've been at different schools, and I speak, right? And the one question I asked every child was, "What do you stand for?" Literally, and I always ask them, "Have anybody ever asked you that?" The reason why I say that, because I've always tell people, if you don't stand for something, you'll what? Fall for anything. And so my thing is that I'm teaching the students how to stand for something, and not just stand for something, but make sure that whatever you're standing for is actually worth it. So, and this is for my determination, is that what I stand for, I'm willing to fight for. Whatever I'm fighting for, I'm willing to die for. And whatever I'm willing to die for, I'm also living for. And so when I get them to understand that, is that every whatever you're standing on, whatever you wake, when you wake up every morning, when you wake up every day, whatever that is that you wake up to stand on, you need to continue to fight for that. Whatever you're fighting for, you need to be also being able to willing to die for it. Because when you start dying from yourself, you start living this way. You start saying, you know what? I wake up every day to put hope into hopeless kids every day. And if I can do that, if I wake up every day, even when I don't feel like getting up, even when I don't feel like doing half of the stuff that I have to do, I get up anyway, because I know that what I'm standing for is bigger than me. And that's why Lina was saying the whole nation. Like it's not about just what I do, but it's about what I'm doing to build this whole nation of people that can continue to grow. If I can't complain about something that I have not done nothing to or done nothing for. So that's where my determination comes from. It is basically standing on what I believe, what I'm willing to fight for. And as long as every day I get up and I got air in my chest to breathe, I'm standing for that, and I'm willing to die for it. And as long as kids see that, and I'm just saying that kids will see that their father, that this male role model is coming into your life and they're willing to fight for you. All you got to do is stand on something and we're gonna fly from there. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what? I'm listening and I'm listening to Travis, and I like that message you gave. But and also Lionel, I agree with what Lionel was saying with determination, but I can't get the self out of it, because one thing is that there are times where if you don't show passion, which comes from within, for something, you'll never be able to build that nation to follow you. So you have to have that self, because it starts with us. It starts with me. It starts with what I believe, like Travis was saying. If I don't show what it is that I care about, and I don't show it with passion, with love, someone else is going to look at me and be like, you know what? Yeah, you sound good, but I can't follow that. You see what I'm saying? And so sometimes they look at you as the reason to love the cause. And so you have to be able to build that self up and understand, like Travis was saying, understand what it is that you want. Understand what it is that you need. And like Ron was saying, don't wait till tomorrow to do it. Do it today. And I think that's the key when you start looking at action is, because, going back to when I used to work, you sat in a meeting to meet about the next meeting, to meet about another meeting 2 months from now. It was never, you know what I'm saying? And so when does those meetings take the turn point? Take that curve to say, let's stop meeting, let's start doing. And until you start doing and be that person to show everyone, hey, look, you know what? You guys keep meeting while I start doing, and eventually you can catch up to me. And that's where that self will come in, and that's where that determination is going to come in, and that's where that nation that Lionel was saying that you got to build is going to happen.
If I could, please. It's very complex. It's 2 words, self-determination. It's very complex. First, it's self. Who is self, and what is your purpose? What is your intention? What is your goal? What are you trying to accomplish, and where are you headed? Determination. What is the definition of determination? What is your goal? What are you determined to do? What are you determined to accomplish? So when you mix the both of them, it gets very complex. It is so hard to define self-determination. All points were valid, but you have to break it down to first self. It's not one word. And that's why it gets so hard to say, well, what is self-determination? You start off with self as an individual word as to who are you? What does self want? What does self seek? What is self trying to obtain? What is self goal? Where is self headed? Now, what is the determination of self? Self is trying to determine an end result, an end goal. And what is the discipline of that self that determines which direction he's going in? So when you put it all together, it comes up self-determination as one word, but a myriad of combinations of what these 2 words mean. So it gets very complex as to what is self-determination. In the beginning of all of this, I said, well, we should start off, what is the definition of self? And what is the definition of determination? That's where you start. Once you start to break it down of definition, then you get a better sense of what we're going to talk about, what we're going to discuss. And then Lionel brought up the end of the word nation, which separates another word in the word of determination. And so it makes it more complex as to self-determination, as to what we're trying to accomplish. I just want to throw that out there for your purview.
I think that's very. I mean, I think again, Lionel, I'm gonna tell you, you must be trying to. I don't know what you got going on, Lionel. You ain't called all these ringers in here.
Well, Lionel, go ahead, give him some background, Lionel. Talk to him.
It's like having about 20 years worth of advocacy and advocates mesh together to make just one gumbo of wisdom.
Right.
That's the quick point on it.
I'm so happy. I'm happy because it's powerful, because this is what a lot of people don't hear. They don't hear just regular fathers having a conversation. Nobody's here. We're not making a manifesto.
No.
Planning a policy for fatherhood. We're just talking about simple, everyday things that are affecting us as fathers, based on our own perspective, our own idea, our own experience.
This ain't about titles. This ain't about titles. The brother Lionel called me up and said, "Hey, this is what's happening," and I said, "Yeah, I'm down." And this is for real. Lionel knows me. It's for real. He said, "Fatherhood, I'm down." And my experience is to say, you're hearing it straight up. I don't have a script in front of me. I don't have a teleprompter in front of me. I didn't know what the agenda was. I'm telling you straight from the heart. Mm-hmm. And that's what this is all about. And just like you're talking about, this is what it's supposed to be about. Right. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes. Iron sharpens iron. I'm bringing it to you raw. This is transparency as you get it. You don't know me per se, but you feel me. You feel the fact that this brother, he knows what he's talking about. I don't claim to know it all, don't want to know it all, but I'm here. I'm participating as a father who's gone through some life's experiences that have now turned into wisdom. I can't take it with me, but I can give it back. I can share it. And I hope it falls on fertile ground and make it work so that we can leave it to the next generation behind us, because we can't take it with us. Like everybody said, life is short. We live in troubled times right now. This world is crazy. These politicians and this government is crazy. But we have a generation of young brothers. I heard a couple of you guys say you're teaching in school. I work with the 5,000 role models for over 15 years. So I know what it is. I have children. I have young brothers that this generation will not be skipped, because we got to teach our young brothers. We have to educate them that says they are worth something. They are valuable. They are going to lead this future. And if we, as young, as middle age in the beginning of our lives, it says we have to give it back to them, to teach them. If you talk about reaching back, we're in the middle of our lives right now. We're not no young whippersnappers no more, but there are people who are going on before us. We've got the balance of the world on our shoulders right now. And so our best example is to say, wait a minute, we're still trying to achieve those folks who've gone on before us, but we have to give back. And we give back to our young sons and our young brothers. Who said it earlier? Those homeless brothers, fatherless brothers that don't have fathers in the home. We have to teach them. They're looking for forms that they can accept. They're looking for mentors because their fathers aren't here. They're either dead or in jail. Or the brother said, I don't even know who my father is. So us who have achieved some sort of success, the best way we can do is reach back and teach them so that they can do what? Take over our legacy of saying what? Here you go. This is what the real world is all about.
Mm-hmm. And to your point, Ed, and to show you that in action, when we was out there, I can just go ahead and just throw 10 years out there easy. When we was in the Liberty City community, there was nothing for Ed to hand the baton to me. But you notice I got another young man and I can hand the same baton right to Travis. and get an even greater result. So Ed handed it to me, and I get a good result. I hand it to Travis, and he have an even greater result because Travis have probably nearing a couple hundred, if not near 1,000 worth of children he done mentored. I'm talking about legitimately mentored with man hours and sweat, tears, and all the other stuff in when it comes to just social economic empowerment. Not just not social, just not social, but social economic empowerment, which is inclusive rather of this is social piece and the economic piece. And he was both balancing it. And that's because I was very social. I'm very advocate activist /advocate. That's just me. But when he brought in the economic piece and said, okay, this will be important as well, then he was ahead of the game. But guess what? That what he was called to do. That's how he was going to run his race. My job was just to give him the baton. I think oftentimes as an older gentleman, sometimes me too, I'm guilty of it. We think we're just going to give them the baton and dictate the race they run. And that's not how it works. Give them the baton and let them run their race. And that's what I'm very proud of. I can trust him, and I really trust anybody, but I can trust him to run the race that God has given him to run, just like Ed trusts me to run the race that God gave me.
Different times, different strategies. Back in the day, there was a different times. There was a different time going on. So I passed on to you, you passed on. See, different strategies call for different times, different strategies, and look at where we're at. So the keys in the baton has been passed on. So that's kudos of what I just said about legacy. So we pass it on. And that's what makes it work. And so it'll continue to grow. And that's all I'm speaking about. This is how we leave the legacy. This is how it continues to grow. This is the sport. This is the support. This is the unity and building the community. Habari Khani. This is how we build it. And if it doesn't, you see the fruits of our labor right now. What did he say? I might not be here to see the completion, but it exists. It manifests itself right now. Hello.
I wanna also just take this honor, like this is an honor just being in a room with great people. Honestly, like I'm very humble when it comes down to just being able to listen and to hear that I can say this genuinely. My gift was being able to know when to listen and have the people that came into my life to just give me the knowledge that I needed. And Lionel, I appreciate you for everything that you've done. And just me just saying that because sometimes we as men we don't say nothing until something major happened or whatever. But I want to say this right now, like you don't understand when I was going through everything starting, you stepped in and gave me that willpower. As long as I knew I could call you when I needed you for whatever advice, like that meant something to me. And honestly, like I said before, I didn't have a father, in my life like that. You know what I mean? So when a man came into my life that stood strong the way he did, all I did was like, I like that. Like, I want to continue to carry that on. And I thank you for giving me that willpower to do so. And mind you, I say I got 5 schools right now, and I'm looking to continue to make that impact. And you all are welcome to join me at any time to actually come in and speak to these young people. Listen, and just to see that power of a man coming into the school system, it's a major impact. It's something that we don't even realize.
Absolutely.
Like, I mean, we know, but we don't realize you walking into a school, you don't have to say a word. Just your presence alone means so much to these young people. And I don't even know half of these kids' names, but I mean, I have my few that I know, but it's just like, they call me like they miss me so much that I'm like, okay, and I try to make sure that I be that male figure in teaching them again and imparting into them like wisdom that can carry on. And I just appreciate it. I'm just humbled to sit here and just listen to whatever I got to say. I'm listening.
Travis, what you said was, I think first it is crucially important that we, as much as possible, and I know that's the cliche term that people use, give people their flowers or what have you. They use this all the time. I think it can play out a little bit, but it is also a very good context to use, because as much as we appreciate, and I think this is what happens to a lot of men who are fathers, they're not getting the appreciation. It is seen that what you do, you should do, and you should not be appreciated for. Because that's what men do, and that's what fathers supposed to do. And you're not supposed to, they're not supposed, you need to be happy with getting that tie on Father's Day. That's good appreciation for you. But you also said something, another part that's powerful, and when you just spoke, is you said what the kids see. And I want to say this because unless you work like Travis has, myself, Gene, in these schools, Larry, in these schools with these kids, when you are the only man they see, it is the passion of that to say, I want to yell at the top of a mountain to tell fathers, your kids need you. I went to school as a therapist or behavioralist, and with the kid who is my client, I'm not saying he's my client, I go in, and every kid as I walk through the hall say, who daddy is that? Who daddy is that? And that is a phenomenon that unless you experience it, you won't really understand what Travis was just saying about how these kids are hungry for us. They're hungry, hungry, hungry. So they're really hungry for you. And I'm speaking directly into the camera, out into the world, to fathers who may not recognize and know your kids are hungry for you. I know they might have all kinds of stipulations to be able to get to them, but use some self-determination to find a way to prepare yourself. If you can't be in the next 2 years, that you're planning for the next 5 years, how you're going to be there for them, because they need you. They got mamas. The question is, do we have daddies?
They got, Ron, what you're saying about that is true, and here's why. Because second to God himself, right? Your children are the only ones that will accept you as is. If I'm lying, I'm flying. Ask anybody. Your kids, second to God himself, is the only ones in this world that will accept you as is. And so there's a God complex when it comes to not only just being a father, but through the eyes of a child. And I think I discovered why that is. Because there's nothing like having your own. That's my daddy. You understand?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And having that identity, and I can point to the totality of that history. Let me say that again. The totality of that history. My wife said I love to use alliterations. It helps me out. But the totality of that history, and you can actually point to that and say, that's mine. And kids are just naturally selfish anyway, say mine, mine, mine. And so the greatest mind of all starts with the father. Mm-hmm. And this is why the word dada is uttered off the lips of children way before mama, not to mention that D come before M anyway. I can't scientifically prove that, but I'll just throw it out there parenthetically. But it's just something really good to let you know that we, first of all, before we can get, and back to Ed's point, before we can become important to our children, we got to first become important to ourselves. Because I'm in that group where I beat up myself constantly. And if you ask me personally, I can share this with you guys. I never thought I was good enough for anybody, and except myself. I had to start, and I think I had to take a pilgrimage and self-evaluation of, Lionel, this had nothing to do with your children. This doesn't have nothing to do with your wife. This have nothing to do with your baby mamas. This have nothing to do with your mamas, and whatever. This all started with you.
Right.
And so this is where the relationship with God came for me, to let him know that one thing I tell you when it comes to God, and God tells me this all the time, he said, Lionel, have I ever yelled at you? I'm like, no. He said, okay. Just that simple. And so when we talk about the art of communications, he's like, talk to people like I talk to you. And so that's another thing that I'm working on in the totality of things that I have to work on. But it's nice to know that I can convey it and share with brothers who can help me get to my goals and objectives.
Ron, a quick one for all fathers here. I'm seeing a trend where it seems like fathers are on the back seat, where mothers are raising children on their own. It seems to be a culture more and more where, yes, we want fathers. There are fathers who want to be in their lives, but for some reason, your fathers are turning into an ATM. And I say this all the time. We need to teach the younger fathers what is involved in the journey of fatherhood, because turning a father into an ATM doesn't teach a child. And we've got to find ways to reach these fathers, maybe when they have babies at the hospital, whatever way we can, to spread the word, because I'm seeing a trend that is worrisome. And if there, as you say, there's a jail, there's a hospital, there's a burial ground, we need to change the norm. And it's going to be a hard job to do, but we have fathers here in this room who can change the norm. We have to change the norm, not only for our sons, also for our daughters, because if we keep on doing the same, we get the same result. So at some point, we got to make a change. And I'm hoping the courts will do that. They've made changes with Roe versus Wade. I hope that the intent by which they did that is for better. But we got to make some changes. I don't know how we're going to do it. If you guys have anything in mind that can say to make it better for our future children, please just say it, because it's right now we're not in a good spot right now. A lot of changes need to be made. Good changes, I should say.
That's real deep. That you said something about where can we start, and I promise you, the biggest thing that's going on in just the generation coming up is self-love, self-worth. Literally, it's such a devastation that before we can get into parent and father and all, it's such a self-determination. It's such a self-problem of self-love that it's screaming loud. I've been into the clash, and I say this all the time, because if you see what I see, when I have to repeat over and over and over again about giving you permission to love yourself. You know what I mean? That's for a father, that's for a mother, that's for a kid, that's for any human being on this earth. Giving yourself permission to love yourself. And I promise you, it is so crazy, because I break it down when I say, and I tell the young kids, I say, it's so crazy that if love come knocking at your door, you wouldn't answer, because you don't even know what that is. You know what I mean? Love is almost like a stranger to you, because you used to operating in hurt that you don't even understand. When love coming your way, you will actually run away from it. So I'm saying this for us to be able to help, the future fathers. We gotta start we have to start loving ourselves. You know what I mean? And we have to be able to say, you know what? I am worth this. I am worth being loved. I mean, worth being happy. I am worth, you know what I mean? Like, and when you start having self-evaluation to yourself, then everything that you produce, everything that you say, everything that you touch, everything that any place you walk in, you will walk in with a sense of power that people want to know how you do what you do, and you don't even sweat when you do it. So I mean, just in this meeting that we're in, self-evaluation, we don't gotta say a word. And the only reason why I'm speaking, because I feel comfortable in a room of people that have the same heart, the same mind, the same spirit of where we need to go. And if we all come into a point and say, you know what, I'm gonna start loving myself now. I don't have to say it to nobody else. If you could tell yourself every day that you love yourself, you love every imperfection that you are, and just you don't have to fight. Everything's gonna happen the way it happened, because you found the problem. The problem was you wasn't loving yourself enough for everything to happen. That's all I have to say.
Listen, this man, you must have been watching. I think we was doing self-worth last week, man. Listen, this man must have went and watched went there and watched the back videos. He come here with this. But no, Travis, you listen. It's funny because these are the type of topics. What you're describing is exactly what is so important for us. our own self-worth, that idea of a father being able to accept that their kid's gonna always love them comes with his own self-worth. Listen, you can be a crack monster. Your kids don't care. But the reason why you don't stay away from your kids, even after you get clean and sober and back to life, is because you are still focused with the love of yourself. The kids can't understand why my dad won't come, why my kid won't do this. I want the love from my dad, but my dad don't love himself yet. And it takes a lot to get into that place of loving ourselves enough to be able to give the love. That's why listen, I'm gonna go all the way back to the beginning. We talking about prevention. We talking about we talking about reaction to things, but I'm gonna go back to prevention because I'm still a prevention manager at heart. You gotta love yourself before you start loving in somebody, daughter. Because if you don't love yourself and you start loving in somebody's daughter, baby's gonna come and you can't love either one of them. You can't love her or the baby because you don't love yourself. We do a good job of pretending. We do a good job. We learned how to act. That's our number one skill, acting sometimes. Mm-hmm. But acting plays out when it comes to the real deal. And we gotta, and we have to sacrifice. You can't act or sacrifice. You're gonna have to be unselfish and actually sacrifice. And acting doesn't do good with that.
Ron, and you bring up a real good point, because when you start talking about the prevention piece of it, right? And I'm going to some of the stuff that Travis was saying about loving yourself. It goes back into, sometimes we have to overcome the love our parents gave us in order to love ourselves, and then move it forward. Because sometimes our parents think they're doing what you have some parents who love you with so much negativity that they tell you everything that you're doing wrong, that they crush dreams. And when your dreams get crushed as a kid, your hope gets crushed, which then in turn crushes other pieces of you. So now you just start moving in society the way you think you should be moving in society versus the way you want to move into society. And so when you start thinking about those little pieces, those little things that get crushed along the way, that are getting chipped off, right? It then changes the way you start to view other people. Because like they said, if I'm getting all this negative stuff and then I'm criticizing based on the criticism I got, right? So when I do have a kid, I'm going to criticize them because I'm going to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to, and it's a justification. And in some cases, the justification is, I'm going to tell you everything you're doing wrong so you don't do the wrong stuff. Where it should be, I'm going to tell you everything you're doing right so you can keep repeating the right stuff. And so it's kind of like it gets twisted up. And so you like I said, you're chipping away at that child's self-worth. The self-love is always going to get chipped away also. And until we start to change the way we speak, change the way what we emphasize on, and show people, and this is adults, kids, and everything else alike, because you have so many broken adults out here that it's hard for them to understand their presence in fixing the kids that they have. So until we start teaching these adults that, look, you're worth it, because you're a parent alone, you're worth it, because now you have a legacy that's going to follow you. So you have to start doing that work to make sure that that legacy is going to be better than you are. And then here's how you do it. Lionel likes to say, which, you have to recondition the mind. Is that, I'm saying it right, Lionel? Recondition the mind in order to get the next generation to move forward. Because once you start to recondition yourself, once you start to change the way you think into a more positive way, like Travis was saying, you'll be surprised at all the stuff that starts to come your way. We're so busy throwing obstacles in our path that we never take time to appreciate the little steps forward that we made. We get a job, we're like, man, this job doesn't pay me enough. Bruh, you got a job. There are like so many people out there with no job. You just made a positive move. Now work on that. But we're so busy trying to look for the next step that we never appreciate where we're at. So we never get to love ourselves and love our accomplishments, which then gives us that self-worth. I'm just gonna leave it there.
J-Rob, you know what? You just inspired something, or you just sparked something in me. I think a lot of us, and we're all of us are victims. I know I was, where we let neighborhoods determine our narratives, as opposed to letting our narrative determine our neighborhood. And what I mean, and when I was living in Liberty City, you know, unbeknown to me, because I think there's two narratives that goes on in every neighborhood. I don't care how bad media, let me say this again, I don't care how bad media paint the picture or says that they are. Two narratives going on in every neighborhood. There is a reputation and then education. Unfortunately, most young men learn about the reputation way before they learn about the education, which means you have two types of gangsters in your neighborhood. You have the gangsters on the streets and the gangsters in the suites. Now, unfortunately for me, I learned about the gangsters in the streets, which is the reputation, before I learned about the gangsters in the suites, which is the education, within 25-year gulf. You understand? And so I couldn't have learned about the gangsters in the suites until I was every bit of 40 years old, right? Back to your thought, J-Rob, about the reconditioning. So at 40 years old, here I am at 40, starting to recondition my mind, right? From the conditioning of the gangsters only that pushed us forward, or pushed my neighborhood forward, was only on the streets, and never understood about the gangsters in the suites, which is the Wilkie T. Fergusons, the Gwen Cherries. You understand? I'm talking about real gangsters after the range. And I never understood the power of that gangster in the suites, which is the education of the neighborhood and not the reputation of the neighborhood, both equally as powerful. Both gave birth to some type of progressive individuals, be it Rick Ross, who runs on the reputations of the streets, versus we got federal judges out of the same neighborhood of Liberty City who sits on the bench, on the federal bench. Kentanji came from Miami-Dade County. You understand? Which is another gangster from the suites. And so because we haven't really owned our narrative, and we're so allowed or so used to people owning our narrative, but don't beat yourself up because it's historic anyway. And it came with the plot. But I always tell people we need to learn more about our plan. I understand Willie Lynch's plot. You understand? But where's Willie B's plan that make him own their store and that barbecue that took him from slavery to a free society? And so that's the narrative that, again, I challenge every man, not just on here, but every man viewing and every man that will ever hear this, to challenge that narrative, know who you are, and don't wait until you're 40 to go through a reconditioning. Not saying that it's true, I guess it's better late than never, but don't wait until you're 40 to find out who the gangsters in the suites was to actually push your community forward and get you the equality and the equity that you deserve.
Absolutely. So listen, man, this has been extraordinary, man. It has been, hey, Lana done sauce things up on the last show of this year, put some cayenne pepper, a little bit of Cajun seasoning in the mix. And that's what we needed. We need a little bit of that. You know, I know people probably get tired looking at me, you and Robert and Larry. Get some other faces in there, and I won't forget tonight. Trust me. Hey, thanks for reminding me that. I won't forget tonight. So it was really great. I want to thank all the fathers who participated, as well as the ones who listened, and the ones out there who did listen. Definitely, if you are interested, when you look on this show, you look down in the comment section, you can see how to get on our Wednesday night Fathers Only Fatherhood group, where we we talk a little bit more explicit about fatherhood in a more father tone. Let me say father tone, because that right now we're talking in a nice, professional tone. We'll be more father toned in tomorrow night. We have, and the tomorrow night is the topic is fathering and becoming and being a 24/7 dad. So much about almost what we talked about, again, in line to what we talked about here about being self-determination. And again, I just want to thank all. I know that guys had to leave and they left, but guys who was on earlier, and some of the comments were so great. Hey, brother Travis, thank you. You really brought this energy, and you also brought experience that sometimes we miss, that person who is in the streets with the kids, because that's important sometimes. I mean, you can talk about it, but it's like they do at the news stations. They don't let the news reporter behind the desk show you. They gonna, let's go live to Jaqueen down on 159th Street and see what's going on down there. And that's what we had a little bit of tonight, and I'm glad we had that on our last show of 2022. We will be back next year. We already have a large list of topics, and so those topics will be up and running. And again, remember, you're here on Tuesday nights live, and then we also privately on our Zoom meeting that you can get that login on Wednesday nights at 6:30 on a Zoom conference. With that being said, and keeping in reference with our time frame, I want to thank everybody. And Father, repeat after me. I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I
I am a man of honor.
I'm a man of honor.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
Courage.
I say I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
I am a man of respect.
Fathers, come on now. I said that I am.
I am.
I said that you are.
You are.
You are.
I said that we are.
We are.
Championship
Fathers. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Sir.
sir.
See us do that. We're not here flexing our muscles, but we're holding our children on our arms and holding our families on our backs like Atlas. So that it's not a macho man thing. It's a thing that's let our children know we are their rock and we are their tree that they can climb on and get all the nourishment they need. With that being said, until we see you again, for all those people who may not see tomorrow night, I just want to wish you a happy new year, and we'll see you in the new year, and keep blessings over everybody. In that.
All right.
Stay
All right,
safe.
Happy New Year, guys.
brother.
Be safe.
Happy
Love
New
you guys.
Year.
Thank you for everything.
Yeah, guys.
All right.
All right. Now.
Yeah, Ron, you there?
1 second.